up guys, Shakana Tebi here, aka Shay, and you are you're watching episode 9 of The Creative Quest. Well, welcome back to The Creative Quest, everybody, and my cat insists on being in this episode. This is Maybelle, everybody. Say hi. Hello. Anyway, but in this episode, we're going to be talking about demos. Demoing is a really important part of the songwriting process. It can really set you up for success. It can make things go smooth. It can make things go really efficient when you go into the studio and start working with a producer, or it can make things harder. It can make things more difficult. It can suck the life out of the studio process, and it can cost you time, and time equals money. So there's plenty of songwriters out there. So I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to go about the demoing process. There's a lot of different tools. There's a lot of different tips and tricks that people use. But I'm just going to show you what I've learned in my process of demoing my songs and the things that have helped me. So first things first, this is actually something that I've learned just recently. My husband is a producer, so I'm very, very lucky that I have a really, really good ear on me at all times and someone that knows a lot about production and the studio to talk to all the time. And one thing that I have recently begun to learn about is how tones in the demoing process can actually help a producer understand what your vision is for your song a whole lot better than just the mechanical pieces. And so this is going to be something I'm going to be paying more attention to as I go forward in my songwriting process. Developing a tonal palette for my demos as I'm writing and go into the demoing process, thinking about what kind of tones are going to communicate what I want the listener to feel and interact with. Not just the melodies, the progressions, and the rhythms. We as songwriters spend so much time on those things, you know, the lyrics, the melody, the progressions, the arrangement, and what's going to create the backbone of this sonic experience for our listeners. But really the tones that we communicate those pieces with can make or break how that translates to a producer and therefore translates to your audience. So tones are also a color palette that you can use to create emotion, to create a sonic space, to create and build a sonic world for your listener. Now, the tones don't have to be perfect. That's what a producer and an engineer is for. But to kind of know what kind of sounds you're going for, I think is really important and will only help you in the demoing process. Communicate with your producer so you can be on the same page. The songwriter and producer are on different pages, and if they're having trouble communicating, your overall product is going to suffer. So the second thing is setting up a template in your DAW with all of the tracks for the different instruments that you're going to be using for your project. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what my template looks like in Logic. Alright, so I have Logic opened up on my laptop here, and I'm just going to show you guys what my template looks like. So let's go ahead, go into File, New from Template, and you will see that I have already selected the template that I want to use. TWW template. I have multiple projects, multiple bands, so if that's something that is also relative to you, you can create multiple templates for your different projects so you can have all of that in one place. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Those Who Wander, template. Loading. And here we are. On our left is all my tracks listed, so I've got my vocal track here. Usually I only have one vocal track at first to start with, and I'll add other vocals later, but for now I just start with one vocal track. My rhythm, right and left, these are my two rhythm guitar tracks, panned hard left and right. My bass track, my drums, I use Easy Drummer, so I do all my drum demos in MIDI. So this is my rhythm section here, and then the other four tracks are my other guitar tracks. So if I have any guitar parts that are clean, that are really ambient, and use different tones, or if I have a specific lead part, or maybe I want to layer a different kind of rhythm part on top of what's already there, I have plenty of extra guitar tracks for those. So one thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is record all of your demos to a click. I don't know how many times I have heard songwriter demos that weren't recorded to a click, and it makes it so difficult for a producer or even just your band to play along, to understand what the tempo is, especially when you go into a studio and you're actually going to record the song, but they're going to make you play to a click. So you want to make sure that you do all of your demos to a click. And another tip with click, and I've learned this the hard way, is is to make sure you're recording to the actual click track, to make sure everything actually fits and lines up with the click track and not just the MIDI drum track. So I've done this before where I've set a tempo with the click and then I've done my drum track, but my drum track starts on like a different beat, and then I record all of my other tracks to the drums. And so when I go into pre-production and my husband loads everything up in Ableton, things aren't lining up with the click track, and even though it's all in time, it's not lining up correctly. I actually had to redo that entire demo and make sure that everything was shifted to the right place. So make sure that things line up with the click and not just your MIDI drums. So why don't we go ahead and open up a finished demo and I can kind of walk you through what I did to make it. So we'll go ahead and go into Logic here and we'll open up Bottlenecked. By the way, as you're working on a demo, you want to save multiple versions of your demo so that you can go back to certain places if something's not working, or if you want to scrap something and you want to start over from a certain point but you don't want to scrap the whole song. You have different versions that you can go back to as different starting points, and that's very, very helpful. So here we are, Bottlenecked 2.0. This is pretty much the final demo of this particular song, and you can see all my tracks and things listed here. So typically I like to record the main idea of the song first. So whatever is like your hook or your main motif or your theme, you want to kind of start with that and then branch the song out from there. That's normally what I do. Again, the creative process is very flexible. Different things work for different people, but for this particular song, that's what I did. I actually had a hook already in mind, so let me go ahead and fast forward to that section. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit so it doesn't blow everybody's ears. Woo! Okay, and I started with this kind of hooky section here. That right there, I knew was going to be the chorus of the song because of that main lead line that's really catchy. I was like, this is not only a great intro, but it's a great hook to the entire song. So I built the whole song around that idea. I start with my rhythm section first. So I will take my guitar, since I'm a guitarist, my main instrument. I know how to speak that language really well and get out the ideas I need to get out very quickly. So I pick up the guitar, I play the main rhythm part to my click track, and over here you can turn the click on and off here in Logic if you know how to use Logic. Right. So I will record my rhythm guitars first, main rhythm to the click track. Then I will go to the drums and I will put in a basic drum groove with the rhythm guitar track. No, I want the piano roll. And I'll put in that basic kind of groove and fill it out. You can see it here. Let's solo that. All right. You get the idea. So we can go over how to actually do this in another episode, but all that to say, I build everything from the rhythm section first. So I get my basic drum groove down, then I'll add in bass and then my lead guitars. So get the rhythm down first, get the backbone of the song down first. That's something that works really, really well for me considering the style that I write in. So from there, I've got my hook, I've got a section kind of fleshed out, and then I can move on to the next one. So my verses, I'll kind of do the same kind of thing, where I'll start with a basic idea on the guitar that's kind of rhythm based, and then I'll go to the drums and figure out a groove that works with that, see how that sounds, and then if I want to change anything from there, I'll change it in the rhythm guitars and the drums first, and then I'll add in my bass once I'm happy with that, and then I'll add in the lead guitars once I'm happy with that. Actually, lead guitars don't really come in until the entire rhythm section of the whole song is actually finished. Once I have everything rhythmically laid out in there, the spinal cord of the song, then I'll add in lead guitars later, but lead guitars and vocals. For each section of the song, that's kind of the process that I take. And as you're recording each section, you want to go back and listen to the section before and how it leads into the next section and make sure everything's flowing right, and make sure that your verse and your chorus sound like they actually go together, or your verse and your bridge, or your chorus and your bridge, or whatever it is. You want to make sure that everything everything sounds cohesive. The next thing that I'll do is I will go back and listen to how different sections transition into each other. So if I need to add any space or any guitar parts in between or turnarounds or anything like that, I'll go back and listen to how each piece flows into the next and add those transitional sections later once I have the spinal cord, the backbone of the song. So it's a pretty easy, demo setup here. Obviously, you're gonna need a laptop. You're gonna need a simple interface. If you're recording electric guitars, you're gonna want something that you can shape your tone with. So a headrush pedal board, Axe Effects, a Kemper, or any of like the Line 6 Helix products. Any of those work really, really well for recording. So you can get, really, really good tones on the front end. When it comes to acoustic guitar, I haven't done a whole lot of demoing with acoustic. I will say that I have plugged straight into the interface and recorded straight through the interface using stock tones and Logic for an acoustic guitar. That's something I haven't messed around with too much, so if anybody else out there is really good at demoing acoustic guitar, you can leave a comment below and I would love to hear what you do to get good acoustic sounds in your demos. So with that, y'all, that's a little walkthrough outline of how I go about making demos, some tips and tricks and things that I have learned in the demoing process to make it go smoother, to make it go more efficient, so that the pre-production, production, and recording process can go smooth, so you and the producer can be on the same page, communicate well, so that the end product comes out the way that you want it to, the way that you envision it, and then your listener can really fully experience what you want them to experience. So if you like this video, if this was helpful for you, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to ring the bell so you can be notified every time we come out with a new video. And that wraps up this month on songwriting. I'm sure there's so many things that we could talk about when it comes to songwriting, so many things about demos, about drum MIDI, about Logic. If there's any specific tutorials that you want me to do or things that you want to learn more about when it comes to songwriting and the process of songwriting that I didn't cover in any of the videos this month, go ahead and leave those suggestions and requests in the comments. I would love to respond to those and put those videos on the schedule. So we'll see you guys next week right here on The Creative Quest.